Look out now. Thou art neither cold nor hot. When you want a drink, you want something cold, don't you? Or you want something hot. How about something lukewarm? You get it in your mouth and you just feel like spitting it out. Well, that's what God has said of this dispensation. This is the charge of God against us. Not against us as individuals, but against us as a body, as a church. There are individuals that are going to make it. But there are great numbers of individuals that are not going to make it. Because it is the church as a whole, not every individual. There's going to be some overcomers out of this dispensation, and they will not be in this condition, but as a whole. This is the order of the day, and if we're going to be saved, we've got to be saved from this condition, saved out of this condition. All right? He said, I know your works, that you are neither hot nor cold. Look at this. I would thou wert cold or hot. Just think about it. Think of God saying, I would that you were be cold. Cold in your attitude toward God? Well, it'd be a whole lot better for you to be cold than to be lukewarm. Because if you're cold, you can get heated up. If you're lukewarm, you probably won't. And if you were cold, I could do something about it. But if you're lukewarm, there's much I can do about it. You're lukewarm, neither cold nor hot. I would thou wert cold or hot. So then, because thou art lukewarm, and neither cold nor hot, I will spew thee out of my mouth. Now, we don't like this language, but I have to say it since we're right here. You think this then of being spit out? Well, now, anytime you spit something out of your mouth, it's just gone. But the word spew has the meaning of being spewed out like water coming out of a fountain. Not just spit out and forgotten, just a continual stream being spewed out of the mouth of God. That's what's happening today. People are dropping like flies around us, backsliding on every side. Start out to walk with God. We get people come in and get baptized and get the Holy Ghost and never come back one time. Some stay around a week or 2, 3 weeks, drop out. Some that have been here for 10 years drop out. Some that have been here for 20, 25, 30 years and drop out, fade out of the picture. What's happening? I'll spew thee out of my mouth. A continual spewing out of his mouth. All right? Now, watch this carefully, because I have to take a little bit of time of this, because this is us. This is our day. Because thou sayest, I am rich and increased with goods, have need of nothing. I want you to remember, back in the early days, back in my day, when I was saved in a garage. What was called in those days a garlo. Now, what that meant was, you'd buy your lot, and then you'd build your double garage on the back end of the lot. The idea being that you would live in the garage while you're building your house out in front. And so it was just a double garage, but instead of having a garage door, you had a house door and a wooden floor, and that's all. And we had one, and it was 16 feet wide and 24 feet long. We had a heating stove in the middle to heat it in the wintertime. We had a pulpit up at the end, a baptismal pool over to the side. Now you take all of that out of 16 by 24, how much space do you have left? Then we had seats in there, I can't say pews, benches I guess would be better to say. There wasn't any backs on them. And they weren't fastened to the floor. And you know, when people get the Holy Ghost, they like to shout. It wasn't unusual to see one of those benches get tipped over and feet sticking up in the air. Oh, we had it back there. We moved on from there. We graduated from there into a storefront. I recently had a meeting in a storefront down in Griffin, Georgia. They were in the process of building a very beautiful new church. I will be back there again in a few weeks in the new church now, but at any rate, that's the first time in some years I'd had a meeting in a storefront. But we had house meetings, we had meetings out in the yard, we had down in the south, they had brush arbors, we met in storefronts. The Azusa Street Mission was an abandoned Methodist church that had more recently been used as a livery stable. They'd kept horses in there, and before they could have a service, they had to clean it up and put in benches, and the same thing, they didn't have any backs on their benches. They didn't really need them because it didn't set very much. They spent most of their time on the knees. And their service just went around the clock 24 hours a day, and mostly they spent their time in praying and in tarrying, and tens of thousands of people were filled with the Holy Ghost in a little room that was very little of any larger than this. God blessed them in a great way back there. But now we're rich and increased with goods. In the diocese that I've presided over for 26 years, I can't say my diocese anymore because a month ago I resigned as bishop of that diocese. So now they have a new bishop, but at any rate, in that diocese, we have a church there that was built a short time ago to my privilege to dedicate that new church. It just cost a little over $3.5 million. The most expensive church at that time in the Pentecostal Assemblies of the world. We have others that are crowding it now, and no doubt we'll have some going beyond that. And I know that that particular church has assets and property there in that area that will go beyond $5 million. Back in those days, I was just saying tonight, I had a meeting in Muskegon Heights back in the days of Depression. And it was 5 straight weeks, 3 services a day, 7 days a week, which totals up 105 services. And for that, I received an offering of $2. That's where we came from. But we're rich and increased with goods and have need of nothing. We have our fine churches, and we're building better, bigger and better, and larger and more fancy, more expensive, constantly. This is the order of our day. You say you're rich and increased with goods and have need of nothing, but what did God say about it? He said, and knowest not that thou art wretched and miserable and poor and blind and naked. Now, I'd like to deal with each one of those 5, but I really don't have time tonight, so I'm just going to have to leave it like that. You're wretched and miserable and poor and blind and naked. Now, don't think that he's speaking to you as an individual. He is speaking of the condition of the church in which we live today, and we've got to overcome this condition. Now, it's a terrible thing to be wretched and miserable and poor and blind and naked. Terrible thing. And I'll tell you what's worse than that. To be wretched and miserable, poor, blind, and naked, and not know you are. Not know you are. Now, just to illustrate this point, up in the upper part of my state, there's a lot of deer hunting being done up there, and it'll soon be deer hunting season again. And men go up in those woods, and every year somebody gets killed deer hunting. Somebody gets lost up there in the woods. Now, they go up